It looks like we might finally, very soon, have a tool that will enable us to fight back as artists against art AIs and stop the farming of our images. Let me outline why. Okay, this one might well be a bit of a long video. It's from a New York Times article that I came across last week, and I thought it was important enough that I wanted to cover. There is some preamble on it, but it is rather important and makes a lot of good points. Now, I'm having to use my old iPad here because the printer is over there and the light stands in the way of where the printer goes. I'm going to go through some of this and read, and the text will be on the screen. And it starts out, robots would come for humans' jobs. That was guaranteed. The assumption generally was that they would take over manual labour, lifting heavy pallets, stuff like that, and storing recycling. Now significant advances in general artificial intelligence mean that robots are coming for artists too. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. We all know about that. The threat can feel highly personal. An image generation called Stable Diffusion was trained to recognise patterns, styles and relationships by analysing billions of images collected from the public internet alongside text describing the contents. Yeah, that's basically how it works. Among the images it trained on were works by Greg Rukowski, a Polish artist who specialises in fantastical scenes featuring dragons and magical beings. Everybody who's tried Stable Diffusion or Midjourney has used that name at some point, and I always felt rather sorry for him. There's the reason why I wanted to give this preamble, because it goes into detail. These databases were built without any consent, any permission from artists, Mr. Rutowski said. Since the generators came out, Mr. Rutowski has, I'm having trouble with that name, I am sorry if he sees this, I'm from Concert, said that he had received far fewer requests from first-time authors who needed covers for the fantasy novels. Meanwhile, Stability AI, the company behind Stable Diffusion, recently raised $101 million from investors and is now valued at over $1 billion. And Greg has probably not seen a penny of that, or have any of the rest of us. This is about money. Artists are afraid of posting new art. The computer science professor Ben Zhao said, putting art online is how many artists advertise their services. Yeah, this is right. I've done it. You've all done it. That's how you get work and show that you know what you're doing with your portfolio when you're applying for jobs and stuff. But now they fear of feeding this monster that becomes more and more like them, Professor Zhao said. It shuts down their business model. Yes, it does. It shuts everything down. And it makes it easy for some people to say, oh, well, I just need a logo or I needed this. Let's just feed it into Midjourney. Professor Zhao and a team of computer science researchers at the University of Chicago designed a tool called Glaze. This is what I wanted to get into. That aims to throw out AI models from learning a particular artist's style. Now, this is gold, but not without its problems. Say, for example, that an artist wants to put new work online, but doesn't want to feed the AI to steal it. They can upload a digital version of their work to Glaze and choose an art style different from their own, says the abstract. So basically, say you were doing fantasy art, you could say, have it tagged as, say, cubist, which bears no resemblance to what you do. The tool then makes the changes to the art at a pixel level, and Stable Diffusion would associate with, for example, the splattered paint brushes strokes of Jackson Pollock. So it thinks it's a Jackson Pollock type thing. To the human eye, the glazed image still looks like the work, but the computer learning model would pick up something very different. It's similar to how a tool the University of Chicago team previously created to protect photos from facial recognition systems. That's a whole other can of worms, facial recognition systems. I'm sort of glad it's slightly out of my wheelhouse, to be honest. And so one of the people on about is Miss Ortiz, who's one of the people involved in the lawsuits. We've got a video about them. You know, I'll put a link at the end of the video. You might want to check that out. There's no less than 2 lawsuits at the moment. She posted Glaze work online. An image generator trained on those images wouldn't be able to mimic her style. A prompt with her name would instead lead to images in some hybrid style of her works and Jackson Pollock's. So it's still using part of the image, but it's changing it in a way that it's less useful. We are taking our consent back, Ms. Ortiz said. AI generating tools, many of which charge users a fee to generate images, have data that doesn't belong to them, she says. You damn skippy they do. That data is my artwork, that's my life. It feels like my identity. And yes, it's not just her, it's everybody else that's been farmed. The team at the University of Chicago admitted that their tool does not guarantee protection and could lead to countermeasures by anybody committed to emulating a particular artist. We're pragmatists, Professor Zhao said. We recognise the likely long delay before law and regulations and policies catch up. This will fill that void. Yes, it's needed because, you know, politicians, I don't care whether it's right, left, centre, or in orbit around bloody Pluto, they are all tremendously slow unless it directly affects them somehow and their business interests. That's the bottom line, whether you like it or not. Many legal experts compare the debate over the unfair use of artists' work for generative AI to pirating concerns in the early days of the internet, with services like Napster that allowed people to consume music without paying for it. The generative AI companies are already facing a similar barrage of court charges. Well, there's two that I know of. There might be more. If I find out of any, I will, of course, make a video on it. A non-profit called the Concept Art Association recently raised over $200,000 through GoFundMe to hire a lobbying firm to try and persuade Congress to protect artists' intellectual property. We are up against the tech giants with unlimited budgets. We are confident that the Congress will recognise that protecting IP is the right side of the argument, said the Associate's founder Nicole Hendricks and Rachel Meinerding. Meinerding? Not good with names, am I? Raymond Koo, a copyright law professor at Case Western Reserve University, predicted that the art generators, rather than just taking art straight from the internet, will eventually develop some kind of private contractual system that ensures some degree of compensation to the creator. In other words, artists might get paid a nominal amount for their art to be used to train AI and inspire new images, similar to how musicians get paid by music streaming companies. Unlike music streaming companies, you'll get next to fucking nothing. As a person who releases music and has God knows how many albums on Spotify and lots of other places, you make next to nothing. The people making the money are the people who have Spotify. The creators never get paid enough. Andy Bio? Andy Bio, this is a nightmare for me, this one is full of stupid bloody names. Andy Bio, a writer and technologist who examined the training data used by Satble Diffusion, said these servers can manipulate the artist's style because they see the artist's name alongside the work over and over again. You could go and remove the names from a data set, Mr. Bio said, to prevent the AI from explicitly learning an artist's style. Well, yeah, that would sort of work, but it would still need to be categorised as the fantasy art or whatever. What worries me is that eventually it'll get clever enough to be able to look at an image and go, oh, that's fantasy, that's cubist, that's surrealist, etc. One service already seems to have done something along these lines. When Stability AI released a new version of Satble Diffusion in November, it had a notable change. The prompt, Greg Rutowski, no longer worked to get images in his style. A development noted by the company's chief executive, Aiart Mostaku. This is my kryptonite, this article. I would like to apologise to all the people whose names I have absolutely fucking murdered. Strange names, not my forte. I'm a fucking artist and musician, filmmaker. Satble Diffusion fans were disappointed. What do you do to Greg? One wrote in an official Discord forum frequented by Mr. Mostaku. He reassured users of the forum that they could customise the model. Training on Greg won't be too difficult, another person responded. Mr. Rutowski said he planned to start glazing his work. What you have is a lot of people who, a friend of mine said his wife calls them AI art bros, the same as your crypto bros, and they will do whatever it takes to have what they want. In this case, they want Greg Rutowski's style because he's a damn good artist and there's some fantastic work of his. I was having a look just before recording this video at some of the stuff, and it really is nice. I understand why people want stuff in that style. I also think it's heartbreaking that he was probably the most used name. You look on any video on YouTube from back when people were posting all the stuff on AR. I did the same sort of thing. And a lot of the prompts they mention is his name. When it comes to paying artists to allow their art to train an AI, who gets to choose the artists? That's an important question. Is it just going to be whoever has the highest number of views, or whoever's got the most views on YouTube, or the most likes? Because that's the way how you would miss out on some really good artists. But maybe that's for the best. I think this tool, Glaze, is promising. Is it a one-stop solution? No, I don't think it is. However, what I do think it is an absolutely wonderful way to confuse the AI. Otherwise, we're going to end up in a recursive loop, and this recursive loop will kill all development in art. In fact, we cover it in this video here. This video goes into a lot of detail, and it explains where I stand and why I think it's all going to go a bit pear-shaped if we don't. Right, I'm Wayne Robson. This is Life After 3D. I'll see you all next time.